Hi, and welcome to the New Investors My Story. Today, I'm talking to a man who arrived in Australia as a refugee, having escaped his home country of Afghanistan. He has now set up a new business, helping other refugees and asylum seekers find work here in Australia. Please welcome Hedayat Osyan. Hedayat, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a real pleasure to have you here because from where you came from to what you've done today, it's truly amazing. You recently did a TED Talk.
Yes, from the beginning it was a challenging experience because I was very nervous, and also it was my first time to speak at the front of like 5,000 people.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of preparation, and it was a good experience. And
yeah, they do, because they prepare you pretty well for that.
Yeah,
for
we
that
had
trip.
like 1 month's preparation. I had a mentor, and she just working with during the 1 month, so we did a lot of practice.
What was it on? What was the topic?
It was about my story and how I contribute to Australian society. So it's about my story, basically, like my journey from Afghanistan to Australia, and then how I contribute to this beautiful country.
Brilliant.
Yep.
So you've been here in Australia about 10 years.
Yep.
Can you tell me a bit about life growing up in Afghanistan?
I came to Australia in 2010, and I was in detention center in Christmas Island for 3 months. And when I released from Christmas Island Detention Center, I came to Sydney and I started everything from scratch. And I went to high school, and then I finished my university in 2015. And then I went to Afghanistan to visit my family, my mom and 2 small siblings in Kabul, which is the capital. And I was there for about 40 days. It was hard for me because there's a lot of criminal in Afghanistan who targeting people who live abroad, like myself. And I used to have a guard during night, and he came to my house to protect me from kidnapper, from criminals during this 40 days. And then I came back to Australia.
So when you went back, so when did you go back recently?
It was in 2015.
Okay, so that was...
Yeah.
And was that the first time you went back since you left?
Yes, it was after 5 years.
And tell me about the decision to leave Afghanistan, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I am from a very small minority ethnic group in Afghanistan called Hazara, and we looks kind of different from the rest of Afghan people. Afghan people looks like kind of Middle Eastern, but the Hazara people, they looks like Asian people.
Right.
So our ancestor came from a mix of Turkish and Mongolia. And also in terms of belief, we are from the Shia sect of Islam, and the rest of Afghan, like 85% of Afghanistan, they are Sunni, which they are the majority in the world.
Okay.
So that's why they consider our people as a not true Muslim.
Yeah.
And also we look different from the rest of Afghan people, so that's make easier for them to target, such as by ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and also Taliban.
Okay.
And my father was a high school teacher. So when he was traveling from my village to go to Ghazni city to bring some books for school, he was kidnapped by Taliban in 2006, and he was disappeared from that time. And then I became responsible for my family to look after my 2 small siblings and my mom.
How old were you at that point?
I was very young. So in Afghanistan, actually, we don't know exactly our date of birth.
Oh.
So it's very uncommon, to know exactly your date of birth. So when I came here, when the officer asked me in Christmas Island, what is your date of birth? And I said, I don't know exactly. Probably I'm 17 years old. So I just guessed. So that's very common in Afghanistan.
Okay, so what age are you now, roughly?
I'm 27.
You're 27?
Here in Australia.
Okay.
But exactly, I don't know, to be honest. So in Afghanistan, we don't know. So probably between 27 to 29, probably.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So in 2009...
So your father was kidnapped?
Yes, and in 2006, my father was kidnapped, and then I became responsible for my family to look after my mom and 2 small siblings, because in Afghanistan, there's a very male-dominant society, and women, they are not allowed to go outside. They have to be accompanied by a male protector. Wow. So that's why I became responsible, even though I was very young at that time, but I was responsible for my family. From 2006, the Taliban regrouping in Afghanistan, and they becoming very visible in my area, especially in central part of Afghanistan, and they targeting our people in different part of Afghanistan, and they attacked my village in 2009, and my mom told me, you have to run away because I don't want you to be like your father, because he was disappeared in 2006 and we have no idea what happened to him. So I don't want this happen to you, so you have to leave, because most of the time the Taliban targeting male young from the Hazara community.
Yeah.
So she said, I'm trying to protect your small sister and brother, and you should leave Afghanistan. So it was night and I fled from my village to Kabul. I was in Kabul for 2 months to organize everything with people smuggler, from document like passport, my journey from Afghanistan. After 2 months, I came to Dubai by plane, and then from Dubai to Malaysia and then Indonesia. And I was 6 months in Indonesia, and I went to UNHCR office in Jakarta to seek asylum. But after 6 months wait, I found that it will take many years, at least 10 years, to process my claim. So I had two options: stay at least for 10 years in Jakarta without hope, underground, or take the boat journey. And one of my roommate, he was a very close friend of mine, and he left 1 month before I left Indonesia with the other 65 people, and he was disappeared in the ocean.
To come to Australia?
Yeah, so I know that it's going to happen to us if we take this boat journey. But I had two options: stay in Indonesia for 10 years or take that dangerous boat journey. And also, if I stay in 10 years in Jakarta, who is going to support my family back to Afghanistan? My mom and two small siblings, which is a very male-dominant society. So I'm the one who is responsible to protect them.
So your motivation at the time was to go and be able to support
Exactly
people back home.
So that's why I take the boat journey and I came to Australia.
Were you very scared getting on that boat, thinking, what happened to your friend?
So it's for them, they just disappeared along 65 other people 1 month before we left. And in my journey, I was with other 45 people in a small boat with lots of family in our boat. It was a 9 days journey from Indonesia to Christmas Island. And I still have nightmare from my journey. It was such I think probably I never forgive this kind of moment. So every night when the storm came and hit the boat, we thought it's going to be the last night. Everyone just crying, the baby, the family. And to be honest, I feel like this is my second life, because I thought this journey is going to be the last part. Yeah. But luckily, after 9 days, we have been rescued by the Australian Navy, and we transferred to Christmas Island.
What happened then? So when you landed here to Australia?
Yeah, so they transferred us to Christmas Island Detention Centre. The refugee camp was a difficult experience. It affected me physically and mentally. I was traumatized in Afghanistan because I lost my father. And also I had a very tough journey from Afghanistan to Indonesia. When I was in Indonesia, I was starving the whole time. I didn't have enough money to survive, and I was trying to contact different parts of Afghanistan for sick to send me money to take the boat journey, because it cost around $7,000. And also when I came to Indonesia and to Christmas Island, I was detained. It was literally like a jail, and we had limited access to food, physical activity, and we were treated like criminals, when our only crime had been to seek stability in a time of chaos. So it was tough, and I had issue with my sleeping at that time. I couldn't sleep the whole night, and but it passed, and I'm happy that it's all gone.
So what was the moment then that things changed?
After 3 months, we have done a lot of interview with the Department of Immigration, and they found that I'm a genuine refugee.
Yeah.
And they granted me permanent visa. So from that time, I moved to Sydney because one of my friends was living here, and I couldn't speak English at all at that time. So I started everything from scratch. So I went to IC, English Intensive Center, and then I went to high school. And in 2013, I finished my high school and I moved to Canberra to study politics and international relations because I was very kind of interested to become a politician because of my experience in Afghanistan, and I wanted to make some changes at the world level. So that's why I moved to Canberra, because I thought that's the center, the capital of Australia. And I did politics and international relations, and then I got a scholarship to do my honors degree in politics as well.
Yeah.
And after I finished my honors degree in 2016, I got another scholarship to do my PhD because I was very inspired to do PhD and become like a politician. During my uni break, I had 2 months break. I moved to Sydney to work in construction work to save some money, because when I was at uni, I was struggling to survive, like kind of financially, support my family and also myself. And I was working in the construction industry as a labor. And I found that refugees and asylum seekers are being exploited every day at the workplace because they can't speak English. They don't have the networks to support them. And then I got part-time job with Settlement Service International with Maya New South Wales as a youth consultant. And I had a lot of connection with refugees, and they're all complaining about the employment issue. And they're saying, like, we really want to work and contribute to society, but the government doesn't help us. So they just gave us very basic support when we came here. And we don't have anyone to advocate for us.
Yeah.
And you have done your university here and you can speak English, you have the networks. So why don't you help us? And I thought it's enough for me. I have to do something for them. So from that time, I started thinking to start a social enterprise to help refugees and asylum seekers.
What do you think some of the biggest changes that they could make to help asylum seekers and refugees here?
I think like secure and sustainable employment is a vital part of resettlement. If the government really want to get benefit from refugees and asylum seekers, they should invest a lot of fund from the beginning to help refugees and asylum seekers to integrate into the mainstream society.
Yeah.
Because when they came here in Australia, for example, someone from my ethnicity who have been in Afghanistan and who have been traumatized for a whole life, they are kind of illiterate in their own language. So when they came here, the government gave only 510-hour English class. Imagine yourself, if you couldn't speak your own language or you couldn't read your own language, how are you going to pick a new language in just 500-hour English class? It's kind of impossible.
Yeah.
And then how are you going to expect from this guy to be a part of the society and contribute to economic? So it's kind of impossible. So that's why we asked the government to invest more on the education, training, and also employment.
To integrate.
So that was the main reason behind of my social enterprise.
And so just to go back, so with the, like that, you went and got scholarships and you were studying and you were motivated to keep going. Like after all that harrowing experience, right back from losing your dad to Indonesia and then Christmas Island, what do you attribute that mental strength that you have to?
First of all, I was from a middle-class family in Afghanistan. My father was a high school teacher and he always encouraged me to do more education, study more, because he believes that we can change the world through education. So that's why I was very inspired by my father. And I had that mentality to do more study and going to university and become like an academic or politician. And also, I was lucky because I was 17 years old when I came to Australia. So if you're 17 years old, you're entitled to greater assistance in learning to speak, read and write in English.
Yep.
So that was the turning point for me. I was under 17 years old and I had this chance to go to proper English class, high school and university.
Yeah.
But the rest of refugees and asylum seekers who are over 18, they don't have this opportunity.
They don't have that.
So that's like 1 year difference. It's going to make the whole changes and differences.
Yeah. Who helped you? Did you have friends here or did you have like support to get through?
When I came here, I had a very a friend of mine, he was here for about 5 years. And he was just like a friend. He didn't help me much because he was struggling at that time to find a job. But once I went to high school, my high school teacher, they became very supportive. And
Right.
also, whoever I meet from the Australian community, they become very supportive when I share my experience and my motivation for helping and also integrating into the mainstream society. So they become the main supporter in my life. So that's why I always say that I really appreciate from the Australian community and also from the Australian government to give me this opportunity
Yeah.
to live in this country, to allows me to thrive in this country. Like in my own country in Afghanistan, I was considered as a second-class citizen.
Yep.
But in here in Australia, in less than 10 years, I finished my honours degree and I established a business employing more than 40 refugees and asylum seekers. This is because of fair society, because of equal opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very appreciative and also kind of from the Australian community to work hard to contribute back to Australian society because it's my responsibility.
No, that's great. And so when you mentioned your business,
Yep.
It's called Nick Tiling Services.
Yep.
Who's Nick?
Yeah, it's very interesting. To be honest, there's still some kind of discrimination and racism in Australia. So when I start thinking to establish a social enterprise in construction industry, I was thinking, should I pick an English name or a Persian, which is my own language? If I pick a Persian, it doesn't make sense for the Australian community. If I pick an English name, probably my community would say like, why you pick an English name? So, and then I came to this conclusion, I should pick a word which should be in English and also in Persian. So Nick in Persian, it means something good, something beneficial for the society. And also it's easy for the Australian people to pronounce Nick. And also it became my nickname as well. So now when I go to construction work, I go to visit my employee. Everyone know me as a Nick.
Yeah.
So that's the story behind the Nick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you respond to discrimination? And also, like, there's a lot of skepticism towards asylum seekers and refugees and towards your plight.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
So I start from when I finish my honours and I move to start working in construction industry, and they asked me to provide a safe platform. And I did some research which industry is suitable for refugees who are been traumatized. They don't have much skills and qualification. And I found that the construction industry is one of the growing industry in Australia.
Yep.
And also there's a loss of labor shortage in this industry. And also when I did research, I found that there's an untapped resource from refugee and migrant background as well. We have 31,000 refugees, asylum seekers in Australia who are living in limbo, and we don't know what is going to happen to them. And also Australia accepts at least 18,000 people each year, refugees and asylum seekers from overseas. So there's a very untapped resource from this community. On the other side, the government hasn't done much to help these people to contribute and also integrate into mainstream society. So we don't have a system to help us to change this. And when I was working as a youth consultant with Settlement Service International and also with the Cumberland Council, I had this opportunity to meet a lot of politicians and also people who are working as a policymaker. And I mentioned that we have this issue of employment and also family reunification. After 1 year, I found that they are not going to do anything for us. And I start thinking I have to do something by myself. So I established Nick Tiling because one of my friend, he was a tiler.
Yep.
And I thought I should start from tiling and then gradually changing to a construction company, which include all the trades work like painting, air conditioning, bricklaying, all this stuff. So that was the reason I started from tiling.
So how long has it been going?
I established my business in July 2017.
Okay.
And I didn't have any project in the first 2 months, and then I got my small project. And then after one small project, I got 3 big projects in Bondi Junction, in Bright Ellison, and in Granville.
Okay, brilliant.
And then I employed 15 refugees from that time.
And you only employ refugees?
I give a high priority for refugees and asylum seeker.
Yep.
And then the second priority is for migrant and also people with disability and disadvantaged people.
So what's the vetting process then when employing people?
Yeah, so we don't only employing, we also provide training for them, because some of them, they never work in construction industry. So when we hire a refugee, a trainee, so we train them to become a professional tiler, and also we teach them informal English at the workplace to communicate with their colleagues, and also we're providing mentoring to help them to integrate into the mainstream society and contribute to this country.
So it's not, you provide all the services that you would have, that you think people, well, asylum seekers and refugees need to integrate into society.
Yeah, exactly. Like the government and also there's some institution, they're providing English class. Some of them, they're providing like a very basic employment opportunity, but there's no another organization to provide like a meaningful, sustainable employment for refugee and asylum seeker. So that's why I established Nick Tiling, to provide a safe platform for them where they can train, employed, and contribute to society.
Brilliant. And is the plan then to grow? What's your plan for Nick Tiling services?
Because since I established my social enterprise in 2017, I have trained and employed more than 40 refugees and asylum seekers, and I have completed more than 50 projects in different parts of Sydney. And I can see there's a lot of high demand, and also there's a lot of opportunity for us. So that's why I'm considering to adding more services in my business. So at the moment, I'm planning to add cleaning in order to have more female as well, because there's a research that only 36% of refugees find job in their first 10 years in Australia.
I read that.
So the rest of them, they're like 64% of them, they are unemployed for more than 15 years. But when it comes to female, to women, this number is much higher.
Of much higher unemployed? Unemployed,
yeah. So that's why I was thinking like I should do something for them as well. So now I'm adding the cleaning services as well in my business to get female on board as well.
Why can't they do the tiling?
So there's a stereotype that the tiling is a male-dominant industry, but I will encourage them to become a tiler as well.
But do you have to train the guys up in tiling?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
But could you not just train the girls up in tiling?
So we have like a professional, like a supervisor.
Yeah.
They would supervise and train female as well to become a professional tiler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant.
Makes sense.
And so with all that, who's been your biggest inspiration in your life?
Like in my life, there's a lot of inspiring refugees and asylum seekers who came to Australia, and they make a very huge contribution to society. Like Professor Al-Mudarris, he became the New South Wales an award winner. Like just 2 days ago, he was those New South Wales, I don't know exactly what it's called, New South Wales Citizen of the Year.
Yeah, okay.
Just 2 days ago.
Yeah.
He was a refugee in Christmas Island, and he came here and he has become a professor at the university, and he's one of the toppest surgeons in the country.
Wow.
So there's a lot of inspiring people from refugee and background people.
Yeah.
So what I'm really motivated to change this stereotype that refugees and asylum seekers, they are like a burden to society. They are both people. They are not contributing to society. I want to change this stereotype that we are motivated. We all want to make positive contribution if we have equal opportunity in the society. Yeah?
We have some questions coming through from the audience. So
yep.
I'll go through a couple of them. This is from Lucy. She says, speaking in front of 5,000 people sounds scary. What are your top tips for public speaking and dealing with nerves?
I think It's very important to practice. You should know the topic, and then you should practice and practice and practice. Practice makes perfect. And also, when you go to the stage, try to like breathe a few times, and then if you have some water, just drink water.
Yeah.
You're gonna be calm down, and I'm sure
But you
you're
do
gonna.
seem to have a very calm, sort of centered
Yeah,
approach.
that's my nature. Like I'm very like. Probably this is because of my experience back to Afghanistan. We have been tortured, we have been traumatized, we have been persecuted for a century. That's our nature, to be very calm and quiet. Yeah, probably that's part of my experience.
Yeah. Have you read The Kite Runner?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That's the story of my community.
This is from Shar. How important is it to you to mentor both men and women?
It's extremely important for me because I believe that women, they are more creative than men. So that's why I'm thinking to change this stereotype that women, they are not capable of working in the construction industry. There's a growing number of female who are working in the construction industry. And I want to be a pioneer in this industry to empowering and enabling female from refugee and migrant background who are very disadvantaged to work in this industry to make a positive contribution.
Brilliant. And this is from Christian.
Yep.
They say struggle is the prerequisite for greatness. Would you say the struggles you faced in the early days helped you to achieve your business goals, and why?
Yeah, I think it's very important. That's why there's a lot of research has been done that refugees and migrant, like entrepreneur from refugee and migrant background is much higher than ordinary people because they have been challenged during their life. So when I was here, I was struggling. When I was doing my high school, I was working at McDonald's in city, and my chef manager, he always told me like you should finish at, you should sign off from your like timetable at 6 o'clock, but you should work up until 7 o'clock, extra 1 hour without payment. So I didn't know that I can go and get support from the government. So I just did for 1 year, working 1 hour extra without any payment. So those kind of challenges made me more resilient and hard worker to do something better.
Would you still like to pursue a career in politics?
Most likely, because I believe that we can make changes to society through education to become an academic or working as a policymaker, as a government officials.
Yeah.
So I can see there's a lot of populists rising in the community. So I want to be a progressive politician, not a populist.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And given the discrimination that refugees face, do you think their skills are overlooked, and could they contribute more?
I think definitely there's discrimination when it comes to refugee and asylum seeker. For myself, I didn't face much discrimination, but some of my employee and staff, they believe that we don't have much opportunity compared to ordinary people. And definitely some of them, they have much, some of them, they are university qualified person.
Yeah.
But when they came here, they are not recognized and they have to work and start from zero, from scratch.
Yeah.
So they don't have equal opportunity like other people.
Do you miss Afghanistan, and do you remember life before the Taliban?
Absolutely, like still my family, like my mom and my two small siblings living in Afghanistan. And I tried to sponsor my family 2 times, but it was rejected by the Department of Immigration because I came by boat and there's a lot of restriction who came by boat. Sometimes when I think I have everything in Australia, I am equal like other Australian citizen. And I finished my university, as I mentioned. I'm running a business. I have 40 refugee employees, but I don't have my family here next to me. So that's the biggest challenge for me now. And I have been separated from my mom and 2 siblings forever. It's very challenging. And also my memory back to Afghanistan, when I was living in a very countryside, very basic life. Everything was very limited to my village. We didn't have access to technology like TV and electricity. Everything was very basic. And I used to go to mountain hunting and being with my family. Those kind of experience is never going to be disappeared. Yeah.
And it's probably from that you're so lovely and have such a nice manner, and you really are an inspiration. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's been lovely to hear your story.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having us.